in broad strokes, what you thought of the game yesterday. So, Emily, you can kick us off. What did you think of the game? That says it all, really. We don't need to go any further, do we? That just said it all. Right.
Yeah.
Next.
The atmosphere, for one, it was the worst derby atmosphere that I've been in for years.
From the start?
For me, from the start, and I'm in the South Stand.
What was different then?
It didn't feel really fired up, and it didn't feel like everybody was really, really up for it, which kind of surprised me because it was a late kickoff. It just seemed a bit more of a somber mood, and I think early on in the game, when there was a bit of a penalty shout in front of us at the South Stand, when play moved down the other end and then they subsequently got a penalty, maybe people thought, hang on a minute, we've been done again by VAR because the play's not been pulled back for us. They've gone straight down the other end and they've been given a penalty by VAR. I don't know if that had an effect on the atmosphere, but for me, that's how it felt around me. It was oh, great, here we go again. We're being done again. Whether it was a penalty or not, that's kind of the opening for the mood, if you like, and it set the tone. But we were second best throughout. To me, it feels like people have found us out a little bit. They know how to play against us. They sit in deep against us, and then they attack us on the counter. And we're seeing it against Wolves, against Norwich, Liverpool, Newcastle to an extent, and time and time again it's happening. And the pace of Martial and Rashford yesterday completely done us over. We were second to everything, and the first half was just abysmal. It could have been 4-0 at half time to them, when they hit the post and they had a couple more chances. Second half, it was a little bit too little too late. Otamendi came on and was one of the only players that showed any battle or any fight. Along with maybe Kyle Walker, to an extent Kevin De Bruyne, but none of them really looked like they knew that they were playing in a derby. Where was the passion and the desire and the grit? It didn't look right, and it didn't sit right with me at all.
Now, you've made a lot of points there, which I'm sure the other two guys and myself will come in on, but I'm going to throw right back now because we'll talk about the game, I'm sure, in a lot of depth. You're talking about the atmosphere and you're saying right from the start it didn't feel right. Now, on the vlog that I do on Forever Blues YouTube channel, I asked a lot of fans before the game whether the Manchester derby was the first one they circle when the fixtures come out in June, and I asked them whether the Manchester derby is still the biggest game at the Etihad of the season. And I was actually quite surprised by the number of people who said, no, it isn't, not anymore, it's the Liverpool game. And when I asked them for scores, they were quite dismissive because it was mid-table Manchester United. We don't worry about them anymore. Not everybody, but that seemed to be a bit of a feeling. And so I wonder whether the atmosphere in the stadium was reflective of that, because although it was only maybe 5 or 6 people that actually contributed in the vlog in that way, although I sensed it was quite a general feeling, I wonder whether that meant that people didn't go as pumped up because it didn't feel like it was as important. Or could it just be that City, before yesterday's game, had already subconsciously accepted that the title race was over? What was it? Can any of you put your finger on what it was, if that's true?
I slightly disagree with you. I thought the first 5 minutes the atmosphere was okay, and I thought City did all right in the first 5 minutes. I thought it was in for a spectacular game yesterday. The atmosphere dropped quite rightly when that Emily said there when here we go again, dismissed penalty, go to the other end and score. It was like Liverpool all over again. To me, all season I've been kind of thinking, oh yeah, Liverpool's the big one. If I want United to, not bothered about United, until I met my mates at 11 o'clock in the pub, and we started talking about bygone days and all the rest of it. And I looked around, the pub was full, Weatherspoon's pub was full of people having breakfast, and the atmosphere was great in there. And I looked around and I was chatting to my mates, and I thought, I've been kidding myself. This is the game. This is the game for me. This is what I've been brought up on. I hate United. Strong word, hate, I know, but that's how it is. I hate United. And over the years, it's been watered down a little bit because we've had a purple patch and they've gone by the wayside. So Liverpool have been our rivals in the league, if you like. But yesterday reinforced it to me was how much I detest United and how much of a big game it is. I thought the atmosphere started all right, but then when they got that penalty, he just killed it. Everybody just sat back and thought, "Oh, here we go again."
Yeah, but why? Why would you sit back if you go 1-0 down in a derby? And certainly in the past, when you go 1-0 down in the derby, you go, "Come on, let's turn this around."
I think it was the manner. I think it was the manner, like Emily said. I think it was because, we felt hard done to again, and we've had it a few times this season, quite a few times where we've had a decision. Whether it was a penalty or not, I don't know. But it's that injustice again.
I'll talk about the penalties and the VAR in a minute, but
that's how it felt to me.
I still ring it as the number one, and I don't get the sickening feeling that I used to get. It's not as bad as it used to be. Yesterday, going in the pub before the game, we're all sitting round, having a little look at the betting, what's value today. And United were 8-1 to win, 12-1 both teams to score. And a lot of money went on some accounts from lads who 50 plus years old who still have that feeling that it's Man United, it's Derby Day. They've had a good result on Wednesday. So I think from my perspective, I went into the ground with a little bit of intrepidation, which I shouldn't be feeling logically with the positions in the league and recent results. But again, they hadn't lost, or they lost once in the last 4 times at the Etihad. So we haven't got Etihad as a fortress against them, but we do well at Old Trafford. Now, I thought the atmosphere actually at the start was fantastic. We drowned out United for a good 10 minutes. It's very unusual not to be able to hear the away end from where I was sitting yesterday. But as soon as obviously they started ploughing up the field and ripping us to pieces, it just died. And then, of course, we're all having to put up with all the toxicity that sits near us because people get access to seats who are away fans. So I think that was kind of like, how it felt yesterday, and probably from about from half time or a little bit before, I just thought we were going to struggle. And the reason for that is just watching the body language of the bench, watching the body language of the players, breaking play. United are in a huddle, they're talking, our players dispersed all around the pitch, nobody taking any leadership on the pitch whatsoever, no one getting the lads together saying, come on, we've got to get on with this. This wasn't any, and it was obvious that they were hungrier for that game, and that it was very, very difficult to see any positives. And I know you asked me yesterday on the vlog, and at the time I couldn't think of a positive, but actually we scored from a corner. so that's the bit, that's the positive I'm going to take out of it. And that was it. I didn't really see an awful lot else to be cheering about, really, Ian.
Well, the toxicity we'll come into as well. Let's just park the VAR by discussing it, and then we'll move on. I, at the time, watching the game from where I was, and any of us that were in the ground, I think we're all in the ground, weren't we? Don't get well, I sometimes get the luxury of a replay on a small screen in the press box, but you wouldn't have had a replay until you saw it afterwards on TV. I've now watched the highlights, and I accept, having watched the highlights, that there were 3 claims for handball inside the penalty area. I'm not sure that whilst this handball rule is so confusing these days as to whether it is handball now, if it's meant or if it's not meant, and what is that constitutes unnatural. And I know that there's a conspiracy theory from millions of City fans who want to believe that there is actual corruption and things again. Michael Oliver was the VAR man, and Anthony Taylor, whose family are all United fans, was the referee. So therefore, it's all bent and everything. I've said to a few supporters club branches that I've been at recently that if you genuinely believe that the game is corrupt, if you genuinely believe this, then why are you going? Because if the game is corrupt, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to be anything to do with football if it's actually corrupt. Now, if you believe it's corrupt, then we really are in a bad position. If you don't believe it's corrupt, then you're saying that there are mistakes being made. And of course, VAR is very subjective because it's still an opinion. It's an opinion of a different person on different people, but it's still an opinion. So let me quickly ask you, the 3 of you, 1, 2 or 3 penalties or none? What you've seen the claims. Should City have had any penalties?
It's hard to know because, like you say, there's so many different rules that go along with it. And there was a rule apparently that it can't be a handball if he's going to ground. So, I mean, if that's the case, then he is going to ground. But then in another instance, it probably would have been given because it's so inconsistent. And I mean, with the corruption thing, until there's transparency, until we see replays in the grounds and we hear it, like in rugby where you can hear the conversations, or do they do that in cricket as well? I'm not sure, but until it's that transparent so we can hear the conversations going on, the conspiracy thing will never ever go away. It will always be around, but it's the inconsistency, because on a different day that penalty probably would have been given by a different referee or
so
a different
would you have
system.
given one?
Potentially, yeah.
1, 2 or 3, Paul?
Can I be perfectly honest? I couldn't tell you because I've not watched the game after.
That's fair enough.
I just saw it on the day, and on the day, I've seen the only clip I've seen is the handball.
Which one?
Where he went sliding in.
Fred?
Fred went sliding in. It definitely hit his hand. He definitely controlled it with his hand. But apparently the rule is if it's a defender, it's his hand or something. It's not given, and so it was definitely handball, but I don't know what rule they used to say it wasn't.
What about you, Andy?
Similar. I haven't seen all 3 incidents. I've only seen the Fred one. I think he has moved his arm in the direction of the ball, but again, it can be interpreted that he's falling. So you got to play the referee. We've had the VAR hit us at a time when form has dipped, so we've got no comparison to previous seasons. We just know that we've been outplaying teams for the last 2 seasons. And this season we're not, and VAR's there if we want to hide behind it, or to genuinely say this is a problem the way this has been interpreted. I know you're not a fan of it. I must admit I was very open-minded. I think that after yesterday, did it make a difference to the result? No, I don't think it did. So,
well, that was the follow-up question, really. The 3 of you again. City lost the game only by 1 goal in the end, but obviously they had lots of chances, clear chances, when they were really running City ragged. I felt early on in that game for a spell of about 20-25 minutes. If one of those decisions, 2 of them, 3, as some people might say, had happened, might it have been different? Could City have won that game? Do you blame decisions, VAR, or do you feel that United were the better side and deserved to win?
I'm not going to hide behind VAR for that, particularly for the first half performance, because the first half performance was shambolic and it was a complete disgrace. Second half, we actually had the chances. Rodri went close, didn't he? And Jesus missed a kind of gilt-edged chance, which Aguero would have buried.
That's the De Bruyne cross, and he heads it wide.
And this, that's a familiar kind of story with Jesus. I mean, we're going to go to the Burnley game, and we'll probably talk about that, where he scored a couple of goals there. But there's been a few recently where Jesus has got into positions where we know that Aguero would absolutely nail it into the back of the net, and he's missed it. So I wouldn't single out players because a lot of them were culpable yesterday, but we had the chances.
Is VAR an excuse? And when we often talk about Liverpool